Thanks. This has been a really great conversation. And so, in the past few minutes, we've talked a lot about technological change, structural change, networks, and hierarchies. We've heard a lot from content creators and producers and really how they're responding to a lot of these larger shifts that are happening. And we've also sort of touched a bit about this idea of community and political participation and really how those two terms, I think, are shifting a lot with these bigger dynamics. And in this second half, I think we're going to delve a bit deeper into those ideas of really how are we rethinking ideas of community and political participation. And so this first section, we're going to talk a bit about funding and distribution because there's so much politics inherent within who controls power, who controls what we are able to see, and how we see it. And so we're really happy to have two great speakers with us this afternoon. The first is going to be Lehu Anthony, who is a native Hawaiian and the founder of Paliku Documentary Films, which is a production company that focuses on documentaries and oral histories with a special emphasis on Hawaii and its people. And Anthony is also the CEO for Oiwi Television Network, which is the only all-Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian language content station in Hawaii. And the respondent will be Shanae Yoon, who I think also needs very little introduction here. Shanae is the executive director of visual communications in Los Angeles, which has been around for 4 decades, Asian American Media Arts Organization. And she is the executive producer for their Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, C3, their conference for creative content, and also VC's Film Development Fund. So we're going to start off with Lehu Anthony, so please welcome Lehu up.
Oh, not a lot of tail. Check. Aloha kako. Owao na Lehu Anthony no ka'ava mai au I ka wā kahiko. Ua noho ma ko'u mau kupuna ma ka moku puni o Maui ma ke kauna o Hana. My name is Na'alehu. I'm from a small town of Ka'ava. The days before these days, my family is from Maui in the small village of Hana. I wanted to start with that traditional greeting as a reminder of what we're trying to do. Right? This is a diverse crowd. We can look around and figure out everything that makes us different in this crowd, and yet we're all here trying to figure out how to make it all work. Right? From my standpoint, Native Hawaiian, it's actually born in Australia because my dad had a job there, but I lived in Hawaii my whole life. And I find myself in the crux of what it means to try to make sure that the perspective and language and being for Native Hawaiians persists in our homeland. I think that's one of the things that makes us all different, that when you look at Hawaii and you look at what makes Hawaii Hawaii, it's the fabric of the culture that's there. And if the fabric of the culture and the language don't persist there, then where else in the world can it persist? So for us, we're working really, really hard in the media movement to make sure that we have the ability to tell our stories, revitalize our language, and maybe even make a little bit of money along the way. Because that's really what's going to help us persist and move forward and keep going. So I'm going to go through a couple of things really quickly, and then I'm going to talk about Oiwi TV for a second. So just so you understand the fabric of what makes up and what makes Hawaii special in terms of its broadcast initiatives, right? So Hawaii, unlike anywhere else on the planet, virtually, certainly in America, is controlled like 95% by one company, right? Oceanic Time Warner. And they own all of the infrastructure and the cable that goes throughout the state. Okay, Hawaii is a bunch of islands, roughly 400,000 subscribers, of which there is a digital box in 350,000 of those homes for those subscribers. So very, very high saturation penetration within the market. Okay, so what that means is that if you can get your hooks into one of these, well, the one company to air your stuff, then you're in pretty much every home. Okay. The problem has been, right, that pretty much, I came late, my screening just finished, but everyone's talking about where do we go, what kind of platform do we get. The problem is that, large companies can say, hey, you can take your native stuff and put it on the web and go find your audience, and that's fine. And some of you are very successful at it. But 90% of viewership is on TV, right? 90% of viewership is all on TV. So we're now stuck with this equation of, well, we can go and see what we can do on the web and try to figure it out, or we can try to beat down the doors of the people who are the gatekeepers to the magic box, which is television. Okay. The other thing you need to know about Hawaii is that the filmmaking community for Native Hawaiians is very, 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 very small. I can count them on 2 hands. Right? The people who do what I do, produce films. Right? And so we also needed a platform to allow us to grow into something that would allow us entry into the TV market, right? Because if Oceanic Time Warner wanted to say, here, take a 24/7 station, go fill it with Native Hawaiian content, we would last, like, I don't know, a day and a half, right? Realistically. So how do we make enough content to say we want a 24/7 station without having a 24/7 station to air our content, right? Stuck in that catch-22. The other thing you need to know about Oceanic Time Warner is that because it's a large enough market, it's like 1.3 million, it's been the test bed for years and years and years of R&D, because if you can fix it and make it work and make it break in our market, then it'll work across the rest of the planet. So specifically, we got into video on demand. We, as Oceanic Time Warner, as Hawaii, got into video on demand very early into the curve. And that, what ended up happening was VOD technology has ramped very, very quickly, specifically in our market. I think it's caught up a little bit in the last couple of years, but we were early adapters into stuff like active video networks that I think Comcast is using now and is kind of rippling through different stages of different platforms. But for us, we were the first ones to get VOD that didn't suck, that didn't have terrible latency, that didn't have, that the interactivity was really, really kind of horrible. And so for us, we got to play with these toys at a 1.3 million stage and get to a point where we had something useful to use. So that is the primer. This is what we kind of ended up with. This high tech. And it worked. So OEV TV is the first on-demand, all-digital, Native Hawaiian platform for language and cultural products that we have. Everybody talks about the web and TV colliding, right? One of these things where the web is either going to take it over, TV is going to go away, right? Everybody's nodding their head. We asked ourselves, what are some of the attributes that we can use from the web on an on-demand platform that will start to suck some of these really cool attributes into TV, because that's where our viewership is at. Our demographic is watching television, right? And I come from a town, all my friends work construction, they got big trucks, they drink beer, and they have a TV, right? That big in their house. Do they have broadband? Maybe, maybe not. Their kids want broadband. Do they want broadband? What are they using it for? Right, they're checking their email. Right, guys my age, from where I grew up, they're not watching their content on YouTube. They're not, okay? But they're watching it on TV. So this last round of builds into what we've now defined OEV TV has become that. A couple interesting things. So this platform changes when you select any of these videos. It goes into a 16:9 screen that takes up all of this, all of this. This is your how-to video that you see if you've never come to the channel before. How to use this remote like you would a keyboard or a mouse, because you're interacting with this television now. Press B for more info. This is a web banner. This is on a digital channel on a television from a digital box. You press B for more info, and it takes you to a 2-minute piece about the Malama card. These pieces over here cycle through for different categories, sub-channels within the channel, and you can also toggle this way with the remote for multiple pieces within it. Currently, we have like, I think 60 or 70, maybe 80 hours of content on the channel that we're cycling through. If you press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, you can go straight to any of these things that have come up recently. This is like your news stuff. And I believe you have to watch for more than 5 minutes to cycle through another commercial that comes up in the beginning, right? So all these kinds of attributes are web attributes, right? But we're doing it where, and we're trying to monetize what comes from that based on TV viewership. not web viewership. And I'm going to get to Melissa's question in a second because we're dealing with that right now. Right, our Nielsen ratings are horrible. Right, we're in the digital spectrum. We're digital 326. Nobody's heard of us. But we get like 130,000 views a month. Right, that has to be worth something. And the fact that we can measure the metrics of what we're doing leads to the question of, well, what does the Nielsen rating system get us? Okay, another example. That's what the full screen looks like, right? You see that bar right there? Your advertisement, your program will begin in 22 seconds, right? We stole that from the web, right? That exists on, like, if you're watching, I don't know, like Hulu or other channels. So you're forced to watch this spot. You can't fast forward through it anymore. We can tag a certain spot onto a certain program, and then you always have the idea of that green box tells you what's going to work or not. So this is our platform. The other half of it is that everything we change on the TV side ripples through to the web automatically. So we have a web www.oev.tv that has exactly this, but more stuff. Okay. So if viewers do want to check us out on the web, we can do that. If viewers want to watch us on TV, we can do that as well. And the watch live version of the website looks exactly like this, so that you have some kind of continuity throughout the system. I was asked kind of a very important question today, which is, well, how do you make money from it? Okay, we haven't figured out all of that yet, but we have a couple of cool things that allow us to have the discussion with people about how do we make money from it. Okay, so we have these very interesting pieces of data that we can mine to find out who's doing what and when. When are they watching? What are they watching? We can do this per each piece of content. So I can put a piece of content up, and we can tell you after a month how many people have watched it. Here's the cool part, Melissa, pay attention. Okay. We can track it by zip code on TV. Okay. Interactive TV, right? You have a digital box that has an IP address. With your remote, you cycle through, you press I want this, it pings a server starts to stream, and it has to go to an IP address. They can collect that data as it's passing through. We've finally gotten them to unlock this thing and say, okay, give us the data. When, this to me is the golden nugget of everything, right? So if you look at this, 96792, right? The big red screen. Lian, where's that? Waianae. For those of you who haven't been to Waianae, don't go there at night. For those of you who know Sam Kapoi, he's from there. Waianae is the largest Hawaiian community, isolated community on the planet, I guess, certainly in Hawaii. And it's one of the poorest, and it's one of the ones that a lot of the people who we're working with want to make sure that they address the problems of. So that gets me to my last point, and then I just want to have a discussion about what you guys want to talk about and what's important to you folks. But that really, what are we trying to do? When all of this is just to create media, right? I'm a producer. Like, my bio is like that big for the film stuff, and then it's like that big for the OEV TV stuff. But this is an important piece of that to allow for the next stuff, which is the content creation. So when people ask me, well, why are we trying to do this? It's right. Is to provide a positive, reflective mirror for our youth to understand who they are based on where they came from, right? That we're mixed up and trying to constantly be homogenized into all of these other things and call these and fit into this construct of a larger community that isn't necessarily ours on a daily basis, correct? We can take attributes from it, we can embrace certain parts of it, but ultimately our own culture needs to persist, needs to endure. And to me, if they're watching it in Waianae, then they're getting a better, more positive, reflective mirror of who they are than they did 3 years ago when we didn't have OEV TV. So that's where we're at, that's what we're doing. I want to thank Leanne and Pick and everybody for bringing me out for the film and allowing us to come, and Aina for being the faithful companion and coming out. His film Mock Action is badass, by the way. You guys should watch it. And then also to Don for having me come by. Don has been a huge supporter since we met and got to go mess around with the Jake Doc and shoot some stuff for you guys. But I really appreciate you having me come out and talk about this. And I was telling Sinead today, like, if this platform works for anybody else in the room, we'll give you the architecture. You can have it. any day, because it'll make all of these communities stronger, which makes the whole stronger. So mahalo nui.